Okay, hello everyone. This is Ashish Sports and Political Podcast. We joined you today from Hilliard, Ohio, as always. And it's great to be with you. Lots coming up today. Couldn't get the Canelo Triple G segment onto the YouTube. So I guess I'll have to redo that at some point. But I'm gonna be more politically centric. Uh, Touching on some topics I wanted to last week. Couldn't get to them due to time constraints, but make sure to get to them today. Starting with the omnibus bill signed, I think, last Friday. Was that last Friday or the Friday before? Anyway, I know it was on a Friday. I was watching the announcement. And the President of the United States comes up and says, the only reason why I didn't sign this bill was because General Mattis told me, right, that it's going to fund the military. And that it's going to be a $700 billion funding increase for the military. Okay, look, you can fund the military all you want. That's still $700 billion. And that fiscal hawk side of me is just, it's pretty distraught with the idea of a $1.3 trillion omnibus spending bill. Bills. 2,300 pages that no one read. Senator Rand Paul had like 700 tweets. That's still like a sixth of, well, not a sixth, pardon my math, like a third of the actual bill. But kudos to him for trying to inform the American people. Two things I'll have to say about that, and then I'll get to my next point. $700 billion is too much for the military. Let's be honest, our military, even with the lack of spending from the previous president, was still the most was the most well-equipped military in the entire world. It still is, and $700 billion will help, and we definitely need some type of improvement, especially when it comes to a numbers game, right? But let's be straight here. You don't need $700 billion. Of course, there was a report that Army levels in 2016 were below pre-World War levels when they did the drafting. That's not a good sign. I don't think it's about technology. I think it's about numbers, which is what we should invest in. But obviously I understand the president's view on Russia is in this arms race, Iran is in this arms race, North Korea is in this arms race. You have to play, at least perception-wise, that that you are the one that holds the power in these diplomatic relationships, especially when they're tense, right? So I understand his viewpoint in that regard. Second of all, this is not the way a government should be run. No one can read 2,300 pages in a 16-hour span. They just wanted to get the bill passed so that the legislators could go on vacation. And I'm not even mad about the Planned Parenthood message or funding Planned Parenthood or that bridge between from New Jersey to New York. Second of all, a question about that: shouldn't we be funding? Shouldn't local and state governments be funding local transportation projects? Why should the federal government fund that? But anyways, just the way that our government works today, it is quite ridiculous. You're talking about Obamacare was not read before it was passed. The Iran deal was not run by Congress. It was pushed through an executive order, which is illegal. DACA itself DACA itself is an illegal program based on the Constitution. And this omnibus bill is ridiculous. And as well as the Republican health care bill, people tried to pass that before reading it as well. This isn't just a one-party deal. This is both parties being stupid and trying to win seats for the next election while actually ripping off the American people. This is not how our government was meant to be run. Had the president vetoed this bill, it would have been historic, it would have been big, and it would have sent a message that things are not going here. They're not going to be done like they've always been. And you best not mess with our process and our values. Obviously, I respect his decision to put the military budget above the other priorities. I would have done something differently. I would have vetoed the bill. And that would have been my decision, but that's about it that I have to say on the omnibus bill in general. What is interesting is that a couple of days later, the President of the United States tweeted, I don't have the tweet on me, but essentially the gist of the tweet was, hey, we have $700 billion, right? 90% of heroin, of opioids, comes from Central America and Mexico. 12 million illegal immigrants live in the United States, costing the U.S. government, federal, state, and local, about $100 billion a year. Third point. He didn't put this in his tweet, but I'm just going to add this here. That with $21 trillion in debt, this fixated priority that we have to fund things that aren't right, like retirement and healthcare, and I'm not saying these are bad things and they shouldn't fund them. We should. You can't. Immigration as a whole, unless these people are not going to be productive in terms of they have a high paying job, they already have some college education, right? They don't need welfare. We don't have the resources to expend on people that are going to have low income jobs that could be replaced by technology in the next 10 years. In high welfare states, we just don't have the money to spend on these people. Education costs, housing costs, welfare, as well as, obviously, the heroin and opioid issue, and also the security risks that you're seeing with individuals in DACA and general illegal immigrants as well. Paraphrase. This illegal immigrant issue is one that deals with national security. There's no other way around it. Violent crimes, drug trafficking, human trafficking, putting a squeeze on our already super tight economic resources. This is a national issue. And the President of the United States said, look, I have a reasonable, plausible argument to say, look, there is a clear national security issue present. The military, and it's my chief job. I'm not commander in economy. I'm not commander in gay rights. I'm not trying to make fun of gay rights, I'm just saying. I'm commander-in-chief of the United States military. And my job, my singular job, the reason I have authority, for example, just gonna throw this out there, why does the president have the authority to send Coast Guard troops to Houston after the flood, or Florida after the flooding? Because it's a national security issue. This can be argued, and it is a plausible argument that I would have to agree with, is also a national security issue. So, as a result, he can dispose the military in any way he sees fit under his own constitutional authority to solve or to try and fix a national security issue. Is he overstepping his constitutional bounds? No, because if you can interpret that illegal immigration is a national security issue, which it inherently is, never mind the fact that we have proof, a data list of crimes, a data list of deaths as a result of heroin and opioids, along with numbers that can estimate and somewhat track the cost of these people on the United States government. It's a very plausible argument to make, and it's not outside of his constitutional authority, the authority given to him by the Constitution to be allowed to do something like this. If he does this, it will be the funniest move I have ever seen. Because this guy, this non-political outsider that's never been involved with this, has just played generational politicians into achieving what he wants on such a polarizing issue, quietly without anyone knowing. Forget about things like DACA and the wall, right? Those are polarizing issues. And I understand that the wall, obviously, is what this is about. What I'm trying to say is that the President of the United States won because he's a polarizing figure. You don't get things passed if they're not polarizing. If they are polarizing. Because that usually means there's a segment of the population. In this case, there's a segment of legislators that say, no, I don't want this. We're just going to rebut. And they don't answer. And they don't vote for what you want. But when you have something like the military, that's so non-polarizing that anyone can get behind funding the military, it gives the Democrats a bad look, so they have to go with it, especially when they get what they want in return. This guy that's never been in politics, one, because of his polarizing nature, was crafty enough to use the Constitution and to use an issue that's not polarizing to actually get the most polarizing part of his campaign promises through. No, I don't guarantee that it'll work, but it could. It very well could. Which is what is amazing about this entire situation. Just for your information, 90% of heroin comes from 93%, according to a CBS study in 2015. Not study by CBS, but in an article by CBS. Comes from Mexico, as well as the majority of opioids as well. Coming up next, Trump, Russia, Mueller. Huge overreaction by the left. Huge overreaction by the right. What we know this is about, and what we're not willing to be honest with. Also, LeBron is LeBron. Yet again. This is the Ashish Sports and Political Podcast, coming to you live from here in Ohio.